Hello, this is Sondra Oster, Baras, bringing you a few words of Bible from the heart of Biblical Israel. This week's Torah portion is Shemot. With it, we open the book of Exodus, and we begin, of course, with the story of the enslavement of the people of Israel, the children of Israel, in Egypt. And we learn that there's this new king that did not know Joseph, and he begins with a series of decrees aimed at destroying, diminishing, enslaving the nation of Israel. And throughout all this darkness and suffering, there are three women that come forward with amazing, actually I would say four women that just in the very beginning, in these first two chapters of the book of Exodus, there are four women who shine a light of bravery and of faith. And I'd like to just tell a little bit about each of them. So, of course, the first two women that we meet are the midwives. And there's actually a question, who are these midwives? We have their names. One is Shifra and one is Puah. Who are these midwives? And it begins with verse 15. The king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, okay, when you give birth to the Hebrew women, or when you bring forth their babies, help them give birth, whatever. If it's a boy, you kill him. If it's a girl, you keep her alive. And then it says that these midwives feared God and they didn't obey the king of Egypt. So it is often assumed that these midwives are, when it says they're Hebrew midwives, it's that they are Israelite midwives. That it's the Israelite midwives that are the midwives for the Israelite women, and then when the Hebrew women, as they're called here, and then when they come to give birth, these women feared God and didn't obey the king of Egypt. But on the other hand, it's a little odd, because I'm assuming if they were part of the nation of Israel, if they were Hebrew themselves, Pharaoh wouldn't have expected them to obey. I mean, he's going to these women. He's not standing over them. He's not sending guards. He is expecting them to take part in his plan to destroy all the boys that are born. Why would he expect them to do it if they themselves were part of the same family? Of course their allegiance is going to be to the nation of Israel as opposed to Pharaoh. The other thing is that it mentions that they feared God, and therefore. Okay, but I think you can assume that the Israelite family, one of the things that sets them apart is that they fear God. That is the message that this family brings to the world. Nobody else. Egypt is worshiping a whole pantheon of animals and gods and I don't know what. But the Israelites are different. They worship one God. So why the big deal? So there is an alternative commentary, an alternative interpretation that says that in verse 15, when it says the Hebrew midwives, it refers to the fact that these are the midwives of the Hebrews. And as they're Hebrew midwives in the sense that these are the Egyptian midwives that help the Hebrew women give birth, okay? And then it all makes a lot more sense because, of course, Pharaoh is going to assume these are Egyptian women, they're going to side with him. And then, of course, it becomes extremely unusual that they are fearing God, because that's not usual. And it could be because they were Egyptian women. But think of this. What's a midwife? A midwife is one of the most sacred roles a woman or anybody can have to help bring new life into this world. And you can well understand why someone who is seeing new life being born all the time will be start asking questions. How does this happen? Is there a creator? Is there one master of the universe? And perhaps being exposed to these Hebrew women with their beliefs, it's very possible that they bought into this new faith and therefore they turn into these amazing heroic women who are Egyptian and yet obey the law of their conscience, law of their faith, and stand up against Pharaoh and keep these boys alive. So again, you can choose either of the interpretations, but I find this interpretation to be very, very special. Okay, and then we have two more women, all having to do with the birth of Moses. And the two women, of course, are Miriam on the one hand, the sister, who's a little girl, okay, and on the other hand, the daughter of Pharaoh. And the sister is a very brave woman because she's there watching. She's the one who wants to be sure what will happen to Moses, And you can imagine this terrible situation. In fact, there's a midrash that says even more about Miriam. It's not just that she's standing there looking after Moses, but that she herself is the one that encourages her parents to, there was this decree, all of the men, all the boys are going to be destroyed, the girls will be alive. And so there's a midrash that says that at the time, all the men separated from their wives because they didn't want to take a chance of having a baby that would then be killed. And Miriam came and stands as a little girl. She comes before her parents and she says to them, what have you done? If you separate, God has said, God wants you to have children, but he's saying you're not God. You don't know what will happen. By not having any children, you are also condemning the possible girls to death, and you need to come and have children and have faith. Now, of course, this is a midrash. It doesn't have the same weight as the biblical story, but what it does do is say something about Miriam's amazing character. She, from the beginning, is a woman, even a little girl who wants to stand up to these verdicts, believing in God to somehow save the day. We should not be stopping to have children, she's saying. She says, have children and then pray to God that things will be all right. So you see her then watching her little baby brother, 3 months old, had been put him into the river, and what's going to happen? What's going to happen? She doesn't leave it, and of course she's there to bring her mother and to make the whole arrangement. So she's quite a special girl. She's even just a girl, and yet she's so special. But similar to the midwives, especially if we follow the interpretation of them being Egyptian, we have the daughter of Pharaoh. This is not just another Egyptian woman. She is a princess. She is the daughter of Pharaoh himself. And yet she herself is able to understand that the decrees that her father are putting forward are terrible, evil decrees. And she, in her own way, is going to stand up against them and save this baby. The opportunity comes its way. And she looks at this baby and she says, I'm going to take him to me. I'm going to raise him. And of course, Moses then is raised in the house of Pharaoh. What is more crazy than that? And she knows right away. She knows, in other words, she sees that this baby is a Hebrew. She knows exactly what she is doing. She doesn't just think it's a foundling from somebody. She opens the blanket. She looks at this baby. She says right away, this is a Hebrew baby. I mean, it's very possible that he was circumcised, and she saw right away that this was a circumcised baby. I don't know how else there's a lot of different understandings of how she knew, but she knew. And so she says to Miriam, the sister who's sitting there, she says, go bring me a midwife from the Hebrews. Not a midwife, excuse me, a wet nurse from the Hebrews. And of course, she brings his very own mother. So it's a situation that's, on the one hand, bizarre, on the other hand, of enormous boldness and bravery on the part of this daughter of Pharaoh. So here we have, just in this first 2 chapters of Exodus, these women who have such faith and such boldness, and it goes together, because it's not enough that you have faith so you pray to God and you hope everything goes well, but to be able to stand up, risk your lives in a way to stand up boldly against the evil decrees, and yet to follow what you know is to be the right course, because you are God-fearing. This is, of course, very, very special, and it's something we need to remember and honor these women who were so influential in the nation of Israel, and bringing them forth from slavery in Egypt to redemption, as part of the Exodus. These were the women who literally nursed that beginning along. Have a wonderful weekend. Shabbat Shalom.
I hope you enjoyed that film. And we have lots more film content and emails and articles that I'm sure you will enjoy as well. Check out our website at CFOIC.com and subscribe to our newsletter. You can do that right from the homepage. I know you will really enjoy the content that will land in your inbox on a regular basis. Hope to see you soon.